Hello and welcome into Loftside Banter. First and foremost, before we get into the show, one of the first things I want to mention is that I know I missed a show on Tuesday, Wednesday, and I apologize for that because I was a bit under the weather. That's the only downside with me doing this by myself for right now, is that I don't have any sort of backup to all those different things. So my apologies for not getting that out. We'll kind of touch on some games and stuff like that. Obviously, we'll do a basic review for the games from last week, and then we'll look at the games for four. The main one I'm going to get into is the Patriots. Obviously, I was there at the game, and the Patriots lost to the Steelers last week, 21-14, and everybody in this area seemed to kind of have the skies falling. And that's not out of the norm for this area for sports and everything else like that. Some of the great stuff that we can kind of go into is I don't think the sky is falling for the New England Patriots. And yes, they lost the game, but realistically, in your first 3 weeks, you lost to the Raiders. Okay, first game of the year, new coach, new everything else like that. Understand. Not a team I think you should have lost to, but you did. You come back and you beat Miami, who on paper is a much better team than the Vegas Raiders. Miami is a better team on paper than the Raiders, in my opinion, and you found a way to win. Now, you tried to give that game away too. And then this week or last week, you did give a game away. 5 turnovers. The basic things that you should be doing as an NFL team is holding on to the football. And you, by far, beat the Steelers as far as the way the offense was moving. The defense played what looked like their best game, but you couldn't hold on to the football. And I'd rather have those problems right now than 5 weeks from now, obviously. So if this is part of the growing process with a new coach in place, you're still evaluating May, who looks really good, and you're still evaluating a lot of young players who are getting time. Will Campbell, your first-round draft pick, is playing and has been not elite. Let's not throw that word out yet. A very good left tackle so far. Some mistakes here or there, okay, but has looked really good. Jared Wilson, third-round pick, who was scheduled to be your center or backup center, is now your starting left guard. And he's probably going to be in that position for quite a while. You have Craig Woodson, your 4th-round draft pick, starting at safety. And again, there's going to be growing pains with that. He's made some mistakes. He's made some plays. He's looked good. Kyle Williams, you haven't seen. He's had a couple of catches this year. That's about it. But he's getting some playing time. Trevion Henderson, who did not fumble the football yet, looks like he will be good. Now he has to get more yards per carry and everything else like that. But this team is going to grow into the team that we hope that they be. That is my opinion. They are missing some pieces, and they're going to have the most cap room at the end of the season as well. But the money that they've spent on the players that they've put in place has looked really good. Robert Spillane, the linebacker, shaky first couple of weeks, couple of plays here and there during the game there where he was kind of getting beat on jukes and everything else like that. Again, not the most fleet of foot, but a tackling machine. Looked really good, had an interception as well. So if you can stop the turnovers, you win that football game. Plain and simple, you win that football game. Almost going away. So that is my opinion on that, and people need to understand, especially in this area, it's not quite the sky is falling yet. There has to be a learning curve. You're not drafting sure things. You are drafting players that need to develop. And this is the one thing in the NFL that I have felt has been lacking with practices being rolled back and padded practices and everything else. You're losing development. Those guys that are on the cusp that could learn this stuff and maybe take, look at I saw the clip of James Harrison, who was an undrafted free agent. He needed a few years on the practice squad to get to where he was. He's probably a Hall of Famer. If he didn't have those opportunities, he would not be where he is. He needed time to find the right character. He needed to find the right system. to do all that different stuff. That is what we're losing with the less practices and everything else like that in the NFL. The sure things are far less. There's a lot of really good players that are coming out that need that development, and you're giving them less of that. So the players that have tremendous upside, quote unquote, are the ones that are losing out. So that's my opinion on that. But we'll go into Thursday night's game, where the Seahawks on the road beat the Cardinals. Cardinals dropped to 2-2, 1-1 at home. And Kyler Murray is the most confusing person on the face of the earth as far as a football player. 27 of 41, 200 yards, under 5 yards a throw, 2 interceptions, led the team in rushing. It seems as if he'll just do things that you don't think are possible on an NFL field, and then all of a sudden he'll make that mistake. And I don't necessarily think he's going to get any better than where he is. I think Kyler Murray is who he's supposed to be. And when they drafted him, again, freak athlete, can do amazing things, get out of trouble, can give himself that extra second to make plays. But the plays that are being made are not consistent. And that's the problem I think Arizona has. Now, they scored 14 points in the fourth quarter. They tied the game up. They came back. It looked like they were going to get destroyed. They were down 14-0 at halftime. So I give them all the credit. They're never down and out. It looked very, very weird early on with Marvin Harrison Jr. just not connecting with Kyler Murray, and I thought that was a miscommunication thing. And then all of a sudden, that blew up for 6 catches and 66 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, to not count themselves out of it and to do the things that they did to come back in this game, you know, that's kind of where Arizona is. And I know I mentioned it a few times where I had somebody in the YouTube comments tell me that the Arizona Cardinals were going to be a much better team, and they still have every possibility of doing so because they've been in all the games, but they played 2 easy games to start off the season with, and they won barely. And now they're losing to better teams. They lost to a Mac Jones 49ers team, and they've lost to the Seattle Seahawks, who I think are better than probably the credit I gave them to. I wasn't a huge fan of Mike McDonald, but the defenses look pretty good under a defensive specialist. Now, is Sam Darnold going to be the Sam Darnold that we saw? And he's starting to kind of show that. 105 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions so far in the 4 games that they've played. So, again, can he consistently keep doing that? I don't want to keep mentioning it, but I'm going to. Can Sam Darnold consistently continue to do what he's doing? And that is not give games away, essentially. 1 o'clock games. Oh, sorry. Let's start with this one here. There is a game tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. on the NFL Network that's being played in Dublin. This is the first game ever in Dublin. The Minnesota Vikings take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Pittsburgh Steelers 2-1 after beating the Patriots last week. They don't look great. They don't. They lost to Seattle pretty handily. They beat a Jets team and a Patriots team with 5 turnovers. And all the credit in the world to forcing 5 turnovers. But they don't look great. The offense moved early on in the game this last week, scored 14 points right off the bat, and then didn't move at all until, even with 5 turnovers, they only scored 7 points off the turnovers. So, I mean, again, they don't look great. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that Pittsburgh is, and again, I think their ceiling is getting into the playoffs and getting knocked out in the first round. That's what I think the ceiling is for them. The Vikings, Carson Wentz has had to step in. He's going to step in again this week. I don't necessarily buy into the Carson Wentz rejuvenation, but Kevin O'Connell has proven he can take young players that have struggled, and be a quarterback whisperer. Does that mean that Carson Wentz is back on and being an elite quarterback? And again, I don't think he was necessarily anywhere near elite when he was with Philadelphia. He had 1 good year that he was knocked out of, and then after that, he wasn't very good. So that is the question you now have for that. But he looked good last week. Minnesota came out and beat the Bengals 48-10. It was not even that close. And to say that they've lost by, I don't know, 38 points means they played atrocious. And so I feel bad for Bengals fans. But right now, Minnesota's 1.5 point favorites. I'm going to take Minnesota with the points. And we're going to write these down. I'm going to get me a notebook. We're going to write these down. Actually, I got a sticky note. That's what I got. And Jessica's a mess with cards and everything else like that. But I said take Vikings. We're going to see how well I do. -1.5. Cool. This is for me. I'm not condoning you gambling and using my picks, but we have the Patriots at home, who were 0-2 at home against the Panthers, who just scored 30 points and didn't give up any against Atlanta. Now, I think the Patriots' offense is a little bit better than Atlanta's right now, but that's just me. And again, I have a little bit of bias to me. 4.5 point favorites for the Patriots. I'm going to call this a field goal, so I'm going to take Carolina plus 4.5. Writing that down. But I think the Patriots finally break through at home. The inconsistency that the Panthers bring is what I'm banking on. To have a really good game last week against a team, again, I don't think is quite there yet, but has proven that Michael Penix can play well and everything else like that. To win 30-0, great, good on them. That is what you wanted to see from Tet and Bryce Young and everything on that offense, is to be able to score points. The Patriots have a little bit hanging over their head right now with the way that they played last week. And their defensive coordinator, Terrell Williams, was diagnosed with prostate cancer and will be out. And they will continue to have Zach Kerr. I think it is Zach Kerr, I believe his name, the linebackers coach, calling the defense. Terrell Williams will be around the team and everything else like that, but there's going to obviously be a process and stuff like that, and it's a little bit more of a heavier subject than just football. Bryce Young, 69 of 114, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 600 yards. Drake May, 77 of 106, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 785 yards. So Drake May has played better than Bryce Young. The fact that Drake May is the leading rusher on the team is a massive problem. And we can talk about Ramondre Stevenson and his fumble issues. The team does need him. And for all the experts and stuff like that just saying, bye, cut him, get a new guy. Yeah, early on in the week, I thought about something like that. Hey, we can go find a bruising back to not drop the ball every 5 times he touches it. And that's a made-up statistic. But the simple fact is, Ramondre has had this issue last year. You have Travion Henderson, who has to do a little bit more. Ramondre has kept himself in this role because he's now learned how to catch the ball out of the backfield and be a fairly good receiving back, which was something he didn't have his first few years. But if you can't handle on football, you're not going to play. But they need him to play. The Patriots have to understand that Travion and Antonio Gibson can probably carry the load, as Travion be the number one guy, Antonio Gibson be your third down back. That's fine. But at some point in time, there's got to be, hey, you know what? You can't hold the football. That's it. But you need a bruising back if Travion is going to be your next guy. You need a bruising back. A guy that can run people over. And Ramondre can do that. It's just, again, the fundamentals of football are simple. Don't lose the football. That's it. Next 1 o'clock game, you have the Chargers 3-0, 1-0 on the road playing the New York Giants. And the New York Giants are going to start Jackson Dart. I have the Chargers -5.5. I think they're going to win by more than a touchdown. So I'm going to take that. Jackson Dart is the X factor because you don't know what to expect from him. He looked good in the preseason, but again, we're talking about playing against second and third string guys. The Chargers with Justin Herbert look phenomenal. Marion Hampton is going to be your starting back going forward. due to Najee Harris being out. Russell Wilson benched. Again, he was past it. And this is where we're at. Again, throw it against the wall, see if it sticks type of thing. Yes, I understand all of that. Jackson Dart is your starter now. I think you're going to see him. This is Brian Dable trying to save his job. Simply trying to save his job. If Jackson Dart is successful and he looks really good and Jackson Dart speaks highly of Brian Dable, he's saved his job for one more year probably. But as of right now, I mean, that's what he's trying to do. They're looking to start 4-0 in LA. They're in a great position to win the West. The first 3 games they had were against their division opponents, and they beat all of them. So they're at least 2 games up. You know, the Chargers having all 3 of their opponents the first 3 games, they're up by 2 games now. And I'm not saying Kansas City or Denver can't come back. I think the Raiders are the ones that are completely out of this already. But they've put themselves in a great position to win the West, the AFC West. And that's going to be the pick. The next 1 o'clock game, you have the 0-3 Tennessee Titans on the road against the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are 6.5-point favorites. I think that's high, in all honesty. I think the Texans and the Titans, I think it'll be close. You know, let's take the Titans plus 6.5 as the kind of big underdog take for this week. The Houston Texans have every means of demolishing the Titans at this point. I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm not really sure what to think of C.J. Stroud. It seems like he's not gotten out of that slump. They've given up only 51 points in their 3 losses. So again, they're not losing by a ton. But here we are. You know, we're here to... I just don't know. They're a tough team to kind of put your head around. They should have been far and away the better team or the best team in this division. Indianapolis has taken that over with Danny Dimes and Indiana Jones, if you will. But the Texans, their running game hasn't been great. It seems like they're constantly targeting Nico Collins. The defense hasn't been able to really stop anybody all that much. But again, they're not giving up a ton of points. The Titans, you know, young team. That's it. They're just a young team. And they're Tony Pollard's been running really well. They just haven't been able to punch it in. Cam Ward's only thrown 99 passes in 3 games. So, again, not a huge sample size so far. Again, that team was going to go through growing pains, and I think that's fine. The next game we're going to look at is the Washington Commanders, who are 2-1, going on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. No Jaden Daniels for the second week. Why am I so close to the camera now? 3, 2, 1. The Washington Commanders do not have Jaden Daniels this week. It'll be Marcus Mariota again, but they won pretty handily last week. Again, we're at a point where these 2 games are probably the best ones for Jaden Daniels to miss, and you'd rather him not be injured. Now, he's on my fantasy team, so this hurts me a little bit. But on the road, with a backup quarterback, I'm still going to take the Commanders minus 3.5. So, Dan Quinn is returning to Atlanta as the Commanders head coach. As you remember, he was the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons at one point. The teams, or at least the Atlanta Falcons, thought they had a quarterback controversy. They're not going to play Cousins. There's no future there. It's kind of like the Browns playing Joe Flacco, and again, we'll get into that as the Browns won last week. It's just one of those things that they're playing Michael Penix, and he looked horrible last week. So Kirk Cousins comes in, doesn't do anything different. They didn't come back, and he didn't score any points, anything else like that. So this is where they're at. I think the Commanders still on the road with a backup quarterback still win this. I think they're a better overall team, but I think Michael Penix will probably bounce back this week, and it'll be a lot closer than we think. I think it'll still be like a 4-point, 24-20, something like that. The game that everybody probably picks this week is the Saints are 14.5-point dogs to the Buffalo Bills. The Saints have not looked good. The Saints have Spencer Rattler, who's 0-9. If he loses this game, which probably will happen, he'll be one of 5 or 6 people that have gone 0 for 10 in the first 10 starts that they've had. And he isn't playing horrible. It's just the Saints are just that bad right now. And it pains me to say that. They've given up 90 points in 3 games, so they're averaging 30 points, giving up 30 points each game. Josh Allen looks really good for the Bills. You can't say anything more than that. James Cook looks amazing. Keon Coleman has looked really good. Excuse me. It's just, 14.5 points is a lot. I'm going to take the Saints plus 14.5. I think it's going to be, I just think it's going to be a little bit closer than that. I think they'll lose by 13. I think the Bills will give up yardage at the end of the game, and there'll be garbage time scores and everything else like that. It's not going to look close. Let's just put it that way. Eagles 3-0 on the road against the 3-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers need to win a game not within the last 2 minutes. The Eagles need to not be that far down like they were last week and have to come back. It's going to be interesting how this game goes. I think the Eagles are going to, let's see. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. I'm going to take the Eagles. -2.5. The Bucs just don't want to play until it's 2 minutes before the half or anything else like that. That's what's weird to me. They've won. I'm looking at the numbers as we kind of go through. That's why I'm laughing. Tampa Bay is 0 and has 72 points for and 66 given up. They've only won the combined 3 games by 6 points. So the average margin of victory is by 2 points. So that should tell you everything you need to know. It'll be interesting how this game goes. I think if Philadelphia gets up, they're better to the point of the defense is a little shaky to me. It's a little shaky comparative to what they were last year. Now, they got picked apart after the Super Bowl. But this is exactly a type of game that a team could be ahead the whole time, and then the Bucs decide, hey, we'll play in the last 2 minutes, we'll keep it close, and then whatever. So, we'll see how this game turns out, but I got Philadelphia -2.5. You have the Cleveland Browns, who beat the Green Bay Packers last week, which was the biggest kind of weird one-off game you've seen. Whatever. Cleveland fans, I'm glad that you got a victory over what was one of the better teams, if not the best considered team in the league going into week 3. But it doesn't get you any closer. It's a great story. It's a great win. It proves the point that any given Sunday can happen. Any team can beat any team. But you got the Detroit Lions up next. We're 8.5-point favorites, who I am taking. Joe Flacco, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Again, I understand the best chance to win now is with Joe Flacco. But he's not going to be your quarterback past this year. I don't see it that way anyway. He's not playing awful. He's not past it. He's in the twilight of his career, but he's not past it. Not like Russell Wilson is. Quinton Junkins has looked great since starting. Harold Fannin Jr., the tight end that they drafted out of Bowling Green in the 3rd round, who I said probably not great, probably not a great pick. 15 catches, 136 yards. He's their leading receiver. Myles Garrett is still doing Myles Garrett things. Carson Schweschinger, the rookie out of UCLA, leads the team in tackles. All of these young players. Mason Graham looked great last week. Joe Flacco, rookie running back leading you in rushes. Rookie tight end leading you in receiving yards. Myles Garrett just being Myles Garrett. Rookie linebacker leading you in tackles. Your first-round draft pick, defensive tackle, looks really good last week. That is a positive for the Cleveland Browns. A huge positive that all of these rookies are performing and leading in these statistics. Now, somebody has to lead. I get that. But all of your rookies and all of your young players and your cornerstone player are still are all up there on your team. That is kind of what you want to see in a year that is probably going to be building. Now, if they could move on from Flacco to either Dylan Gabriel or Shador Sanders, who knows what dynamic would change? But you would want all those guys kind of leading your team. That being said, again, they did get the win last week. Cannot complain about it. I don't think they're any closer to the Super Bowl, sorry to say. But there are blocks in place. And it's the first time in a long time the Cleveland Browns can say, there are blocks in place that look really good or look like they can be really good. So, who knows what's going to happen with that? Moving on to the 4 o'clock games, we have what looks like is Brock Purdy's going to come back. Mac Jones did a serviceable job. Cannot say. So I should probably backtrack. The Jaguars going to San Francisco. San Francisco is 3-0. Jaguars are 2-1. Trevor Lawrence, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Not great. Travis Etienne looks pretty good, 270 rushing yards so far. They lost to the Bengals in that weird 3 interceptions by Jake Browning, but yet still somehow got them there and got a win out of it and everything else like that. Wonderful. They beat the Texans, which is, again, they only scored, it was 17-10. It wasn't like a blowout game, whatever. But if San Francisco, Nick Bosa's out, if you have Brock Purdy back, you have some answers to some different things. Ricky Pearsall has looked great, and he was shot last year. So, Mac Jones, serviceable, like I said. If Brock Purdy's back, I'm going to go with the 4.5 points with the 49ers. 49ers are falling into that injury bug type season again. Just looking at this, CJ West out. Renardo Green, one of their cornerbacks, questionable. Jordan Watkins out. Nick Bosa IR for the rest of the year. Mac Jones questionable with a knee issue. Let's go to San Francisco here. Let's look at everything that they've been reporting. Like I said, CJ West, blah, blah, blah. Nick Bosa out. Ricky Pearsall, questionable with a knee injury. Juwan Jennings is listed questionable with a shoulder ankle. Brandon Ayuk is still out. Spencer Burford, offensive tackle, out. Ben Barch, on injured reserve, guard. George Kittle is still on injured reserve. Jacob Robinson, injured reserve. Kevin Givens, another defensive tackle, injured reserve. They're just falling into this injury. And it sucks because they have a good team put together. They finally paid the quarterback. They finally did all those different things. And yet here they are, again, going through injuries. Some guys are going to come back. Kittle's going to come back. Ayuk's going to come back. It looks like Jennings is going to come back. McAfee, Ricky Pearsall are there. They have the tools. They have the players. It's if they can stay on the field. And we said it last year, I don't normally use injuries to say, hey, well, this team sucked because the injuries. Everybody has injuries. We all know that. However, the 49ers had a lot last year and couldn't put it together with the depth they have or lack thereof. Here, we're going through the same thing, which means a lot of pieces need to move in the offseason. And they're probably going to be rebuilding sooner rather than later. The Indianapolis Colts, a surprise 3-0 Indianapolis Colts take on the Rams in Los Angeles. I want to say Indianapolis is going to go in there and they're going to win. They're going to cover the 3.5 that they're dogs. They're 3.5 point dogs on the road against the Rams. Jonathan Taylor looks like Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman has looked really good. The 1 year I don't keep him as a keeper because I kept him for 2 straight years on my team. Daniel Jones, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 800 yards passing. The defense, not giving up a ton. 56 points so far. They've scored 103. I believe they've punted like 3 times this whole season. I think it's going to be really tough against the Rams. I think the Rams are going to win and cover the 3.5. This could be one of those games where I look at it going forward and go, why did I ever pick against the Colts again? The Rams have the talent that's there. They have Matthew Stafford playing well, Puka Nacua looking amazing, Kyron Williams playing really well. The defense, let's see, they're 2-1, 61 points. Okay, so they've given up a few extra points, 5 extra points. They're not scoring in the bunches that we're used to seeing the Rams being able to do, but I think they win at home. I think there needs to be a wake-up call somewhere for the Colts. And I don't necessarily mean a wake-up call to the point of they're going to then start to be worse or lose a bunch of games in a row, whatever. I think a wake-up call is they're just not going to go undefeated. I think we're aware of that. I think there are going to be lessons that need to be learned. I think Daniel Jones is still going to make a Daniel Jones play at some point, but he does look good, and I think he's playing at an MVP level right now. If you would have said to me 2 years ago, 2, maybe even 3, Daniel Jones MVP in the same sentence, I would have laughed at you. This year, he's looked really good. And we've mentioned it 100 times. He needed these things in place, including an offensive line. The 1-2 Ravens travel to play the Kansas City Chiefs at 4:25 tomorrow. This may be a deciding factor for one of these teams. It is literally split down the middle. It has the Ravens as 2.5-point favorites, which I am going to take. I think Baltimore is the better team. I think they have more talent. I think they've run into... Who did they lose to last week? That was the question. The Lions. They've lost to the Bills and the Lions. 2 really good teams. Now, to me, this is somewhat on Lamar and somewhat on the Ravens for not having that gene of finding a way to win. They've struggled with that, and I hate putting just a quarterback in that sentence because they're the face of a franchise, obviously, and everything else like that. But this team cannot find a way to win against good teams in different situations, whether it's regular season or playoffs. They've proven it. The Kansas City Chiefs have proven that they can win. They just don't look good this year. Kansas City's 1-2. They've given up 56 points. They've scored 60, so they still have a plus points for. Their leading receiver is Tyquan Thornton, who is a Patriot. Drafted by the Patriots in the second round, speedster. Never utilized in that sense. 9 receptions, 171 yards. You know, we're looking at a team that is aging in some sense. Patrick Mahomes is only 30, but there are other parts of this team that are aging. And there are injuries in places that you really need some players. Rasheed Rice, out, suspended. Xavier Worthy, out. You lost the Chiefs. Let's see, the Chiefs. You've lost to the Chargers and the Eagles. Again, 2 very good teams. They won last week. They got off to Schneid. I just think the Ravens are better this year. Even on the road, I think they're better. Kansas City, I don't necessarily think they're going to miss the playoffs. Let's just pump the brakes there for a second. We've seen Bo Nix struggle. We've seen the Broncos struggle. We understand that the Los Angeles Chargers are in great shape right now. You don't really need to worry about the Raiders. You're probably finishing second in this division if you're the Chiefs. They can turn it around on a dime. They can do all of this stuff. But until that, we're looking at a team that's struggling. Now, they beat the Giants last week. Congratulations. But we're at a point where this team needs to put in at least a good game against the Ravens. If you're 1-3, you're in a spot. But you are the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going to continue to lean back on this until they're eliminated from the playoffs. They are the Kansas City Chiefs. They do have Patrick Mahomes. They do have Travis Kelce. They do have Nick Bolton. They do have all these weapons. At some point in time, and I will only believe it when they're dead and buried, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. A hard start to the year. Chargers have looked better than what people thought they were going to be comparative to the Chiefs. The Eagles are the Eagles of the defending Super Bowl champions. So we're at a point now where the Chiefs either are going to win this game and we're going to forget all about it, keep it close and go, okay, well, they're still right there, 1-3, or they're going to lose magnificently and by a lot, and then we're going to go, okay, the Chiefs are done. I won't say that until they are eliminated because of number 15, of number 87, of Andy Reid. Until they are dead and buried, they are the Chiefs. Next, Chicago Bears get a big win against the Cowboys last week. The Geno Smith-led Raiders lost to the Commanders 41-24. Again, backup quarterback in Marcus Mariota. The Bears, it'll be in Las Vegas. I think the Bears at 1.5 are the better team. I'm going to believe that they've started to turn a corner. And this is a good test of that. And we look at the Bears' schedule, and it was said by, I very much love Barstool. I very much love PMT. I very much love Big Cat and PFT and all the guys on that show. It's the one I listen to quite a bit. It's where I get a lot of my news for the Bears, I guess. We look at this team and where they're at. So lost to the Vikings, lost to the Lions. 31-14 win over the Cowboys. Again, big win there. Raiders up next, 2-2. Commanders, depending on where Jaden Daniels is, I think they're at the Commanders. So they're on the road for that one as well on a Monday night. It looks like a Monday night football game. Then you have the Saints, the Ravens, the Bengals, the Giants, the Vikings, the Steelers. So if I'm looking at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, their next 8 games, I'm seeing 1 win, 2 wins, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 games out of their next 8, which puts them at 7-4. I think 11 games in, 7-4 for the Bears, they would be ecstatic. The games I'm saying they're losing is at the Ravens and at the Commanders. I'm saying that's a loss because I think Jaden Daniels will be back. But they have the capability of beating the Saints, the capability of beating the Bengals without Joe Burrow. They have the capability of beating the Giants. They have the capability of beating the Vikings. It just depends on if you have J.J. McCarthy playing, where you're at there, everything else like that. And I think they have the ability to beat the Steelers. Then you have the Eagles and the Packers. All right, kind of back to reality probably for them. And then a win against the Browns. I think they have the ability to beat the Browns. I mean, they're probably 9-8-ish in that range. But again, a game here, a game there, a bounce. All right, they're not in bad shape. They just, asking the question of, is Caleb Williams the guy? Is Caleb Williams the guy? I said it late last week. At some point in time, you have to let somebody develop. And yes, number 1 overall pick. Yes, you want him to step in and start. Ben Johnson obviously has a great offense. It's a rookie quarterback with that type of offense, then getting a whole new offense. Yes, there's going to be growing pains. He has the pieces. let's see what happens. I think it's going to be a close game. I do. I don't think the Bears are going to blow out the Raiders by any stretch of the imagination. But the Raiders are also probably going to start thinking about Kenny Pickett soon. 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions for Geno Smith, 67 to 106, 831 yards. I just think the Raiders are going to be stagnant. Geno Smith has never been the best quarterback. He's been able to do this for a long time. Obviously, drafted by the Jets, didn't work out in New York, moved around a few different places, and here we are now. Let's see, he was a Giant for a couple of games. He was a Los Angeles Charger for a couple of games. Then he was in Seattle, and he didn't play 2020. Played in 4 games in 2021, and then started to put together seasons of 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions in 2022. And even last year, 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. But again, now you're starting to see that he's regressing a bit. He's 34 years old, not young as far as a football player is concerned. But I think you're going to see Kenny Pickett before the end of the year. Sunday Night Football. Green Bay Packers and Micah Parsons go back to Dallas to play the Cowboys. We have a 6.5 point Packers favorites, which I'm taking because I think they got a wake-up call last week against the Browns, and I think they're probably going to come out and destroy the Cowboys. Dak hasn't been great. He's been good since he's come back. Javonte Williams has looked pretty good. CeeDee Lamb is going to be out for this game. He's going to be out for a little while as well. Zach Tom, the offensive tackle, is out, and it looks like Javon Bullard might be out as well. Jaden Reed is obviously on the IR for the Packers. The Packers, I think, are just going to walk all over them on a Sunday night game. I think Micah Parsons is going to have a huge game. I think Dak without his number one weapon, now you're talking about George Pickens is your guy. Great. Awesome. We're going to have to see what happens here. Because the Cowboys just have all this talent, and they just don't seem to be able to put it together. And then, again, the injury problem has always been that issue. But I think Green Bay got a wake-up call, and they're going to have a get-right game against the Cowboys. And I want it to be close. I love Sunday Night Football games, Monday Night Football games. We actually get 2 Monday Night Football games again. And the first one is the Jets and the Dolphins. Justin Fields is back. With Justin Fields, you know something? I'm going to take him as 2.5 point dogs on the road. I still believe in Justin Fields. I still believe that he can take over a game. Tyrod Taylor again didn't play bad in the absence. Tua and Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill and all these players on the Dolphins, they're going to have to wake up a bit, but that defense is suspect at best. Not that the Jets aren't, but they've both given up over 90 points so far this year. And then the Jets have a few guys that are out in Jermaine Johnson and Jarvis Brownlee Jr., who they just picked up from Tennessee, I think. Tyreek Hill is questionable. Jaren Waddle is questionable. Storm Duck is questionable. Justin Marshall is questionable. And Austin Jackson is out on IR. So I'm going to take the Jets just because I think I think that this is the one game that they could probably win right now. But the Dolphins have better talent on paper. We'll see what happens. And then the second Monday night game is the Cincinnati Bengals on the road to play the Denver Broncos. And the Denver Broncos are 7.5 point favorites. I'm going to take them for that. This one thing with this game is the Bengals were so bad last week. A lot of people will count them out. Jake Browning, I think, has the ability to wake up and be better than what he's shown. He just needs to find a way to do that. Your leading rusher, Chase Brown, has 93 rushing yards in 3 games, which is atrocious. Jamar Chase is still there. Trey Hendrickson is still playing it, and leading the team in sacks. The air is out of that building. They understand where they're at. I don't want to count out the Bengals quite yet, just because I think there's still time for them to rally together. Teams like this always find a way to rally and get some wins someplace. This could be one of them because Bo Nix hasn't blown anybody away. Neither has Denver as a whole. They haven't blown anybody away. They're playing a tough schedule. They've lost to the Chargers and the Colts. They gave the game away for the Colts. So, and the coaching they have and everything else, everything's there for the Broncos. Again, the Broncos and the Chiefs are going to fight for second place in this division. The Bengals, I don't want to count out quite yet. I don't. I thought they'd be a little bit better with Browning because he's been there for a little while, but he's obviously a huge drop-off from Joe Burrow. So that's week 4, and the predictions that I have, I'll update everybody with the what I have for the lines and everything else like that. Ryder Cup has started. Right now, Europe is really beating you at Team USA. And again, this is a golf thing that Europe versus the United States, and I think they're up by 5 right now. So they play either singles or they play doubles and stuff like that, and it's based upon how many strokes that you win by and stuff like that. The Europeans are up 8.5 to 3.5 scoring. It'll be fine. You get a half for basically being within whatever. Barring a miraculous comeback by the United States, they're going to have lost the Ryder Cup 11 times in the past 15 Ryder Cups, which is, again, not great. But so that was on this weekend. You had college football you have great games this whole Saturday. Right now, Georgia Tech and Wake Forest. I was watching that before I came up here to do this. USC is up 32-31, but it's 4th and 1 for Illinois. Vanderbilt is winning. Ohio State and Washington, huge game. You have number 4 LSU against number 13 Ole Miss. You have, where's the other ones? You have Penn State, number 3 Penn State against number 6 Oregon for the whiteout in Pennsylvania there. Georgia, number 5 Georgia against number 17 Alabama. Notre Dame handled Arkansas pretty easily. We've seen Arizona State and Virginia beat ranked teams. Florida State fell. That Tommy Castellanos experiment in Florida State, I'm sure they still love him. I'm sure that he'll still start the rest of the way. But the one thing I want to warn everybody is Tommy Castellanos isn't the greatest quarterback. He couldn't make it at Boston College. I watched him at Boston College. I watched the mistakes that he was making with a Bill O'Brien offense. Yes, he was the most senior to walk in and to take over the starting role and had Heisman hopes to start off with. But 45 of 70, 848 yards. He's got a good completion percentage at 64%. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Is going to make those mistakes. So Florida State fans, if you're listening to this, understand from a Boston College fan, Tommy Castellanos isn't the guy you really want. He's the best you got right now, unless Kevin Sperry, who's your backup, is going to step up and play better. The other guy, Brock Glenn, sophomore, I thought he would be better. I thought when he was recruited he'd be better. But yeah, Tommy Castellanos is, again, you want him to be your starting quarterback, no problem. But he's going to make mistakes and not play well in games like he just did and lose them. And again, I don't think he necessarily lost the game for you. But that's college football this weekend. I'm spending the time here to record this so that and go right back downstairs to start watching college football again. Georgia Tech just tied the game 23-23, 2 seconds left, so they're still looking to be undefeated. So those are the big games we got now. And then we also have Boston College in California, that Atlantic Coast Conference rivalry. Anyway. Baseball. We had the Red Sox walk off to clinch a playoff spot yesterday against the Detroit Tigers, who were absolutely in free fall. I remember earlier this season, I called them one of the best team in the major leagues, and they've been in a free fall for a long time. The Guardians are going to win that division, it looks like. They are tied right now, 86 and 74, 86 and 74. If I go to the standings here, they are dead tied. It looks as if the difference in runs, I don't know if that necessarily, but the Detroit Tigers are 1-9 in their last 10, whereas the Guardians are 7-3. It looks like the Guardians right now, if the season ended right now, I believe they would be in just by the standings here. But the Red Sox are going to get in as the third place team out of the AFC East. The Toronto Blue Jays are a half game back of the Yankees for the AL East title. It depends on who goes where, but I would be okay with the Red Sox playing the Yankees or the Blue Jays in the wild card. I'd be okay with that. If I look at the wild card right now, it is Toronto, who the Red Sox are plus 2 games over the Detroit Tigers, who are in that wild card spot, that next wild card spot. The Astros are 1 game back. So 4 wild card teams. The Guardians would win the Central as of right now. And then when we get into the postseason, we'll go over all of this stuff and everything else like that. The Red Sox need some guys coming back from injury. That's the thing that they need. Right now, their roster or depth chart I should look at here is we're obviously missing Roman Anthony. That's the big one. Pitching wise, I mean, they look pretty good. Connolly Early is your 4th starter right now. Who knows if he's going to make that, but he's made a couple of starts. Kyle Harrison has made some starts. I'm trying to see. He pitched 3 innings last night, gave up 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks, 7 hits. That's got to be better. Now, if Kyle Harrison can move into the bullpen, that's fine. He also, on 920, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. So better that time around. It looks like he's going to be that 5th starter right now. I'm okay with Crochet, Bello, Lucas Giolito being your 3. If Kyle Harrison or Connolly Early are going to be the guys in your 4 and 5 spot now, in the playoffs you go with 4. So your 5th starter always reverts kind of into that long relief position. So we'll have to see what happens with that. I would be okay with Crochet, Bello, Giolito, and Harrison. I don't know if Connolly Early is the right guy, but again, there's so little on him scouting report wise. It may be one of those things where he runs out in that first series and he does really well, gets shelled, whatever, and then you make an adjustment from there. But looking at the roster, I'm trying to make sure there's nobody else that would be in that spot. I mean, those are your options. Peyton Toll is another guy, but he's in the bullpen right now. He's struggled a bit. He's given up earned runs, or at least a run, in the last couple of games that he's played. But he's been that long relief guy. Now, again, Peyton is very young, and I'm sure he'll be in the rotations next year or the year after, whatever. But that's where we are with the major leagues. That's where we are with college football. We've taken a look at the NFL. Cade Horton, who has just been put on the IL, ruling him out for the opening. So the rookie pitcher, who's looked pretty good this year, 11-4. He'll be out for the first shot. So the Cubs look like they're going to be in there. And then the other standings from the other side, the Mets are still trying to clinch. Let's see, wild card here. The Mets and the Cincinnati Reds are the 2 teams battling out. And again, if you would have told me the Cincinnati Reds would have been here, probably would have called you crazy. Hunter Green has looked really good. Andrew Abbott looked done pretty well so far for this team. Brady Singer, 14-11. So every time he pitches, he gets either a win or a loss. And then Ellie De La Cruz and some of the guys on this team, Ellie De La Cruz, Gavin Lux, they picked up Cabrian Hayes. They're not household names. And that's what's fun about them. Novelli, Marte, again, not a household name from the Cincinnati team or the Cincinnati area all know these players. For me, that's all a lot of new names. Sal Stewart. Gotta have a Sal, right? He looks like a Sal, too. Look up Sal Stewart. He looks like a Sal. But that's where we are with all these. The injury bug, obviously, in the NFL has bitten a lot of different players and stuff like that so far. CeeDee Lamb, Nick Bosa, as we mentioned so far. We're getting back into the start of hockey. So we'll have the Hockey Brothers come back on, maybe the first couple of hockey or Bruins. We'll talk about them a little bit as well. This is an exciting time where we're getting into the heart of college football, the heart of the NFL season. Hockey starting to build back up. On 10-8, the Celtics play a preseason game. Cool. We'll see where they're at. We're going to have basketball, and we're going to have a lot of people coming on. And then you'll see some differences back here. We're working on this right now. Mainly, we're probably going to move to a bigger area of the house and set it up like an actual studio and everything else like that. Doesn't mean the Loftside name is going to change. You probably won't even notice it, half of you, and that's fine. But from there, a lot of exciting things happen. We're looking to bring on some other podcasts to the platform and everything else like that. So a lot of stuff is happening. Again, my apologies for missing early in the week, just being under the weather. That's the only downside with this right now is it's being operated by me, and you're at the whim of some of that stuff. But as of right now, back on track. So thank you for listening in. Please visit us at loftsidebanter.com. That's loftside.bantr.com. Loftsidebanter@gmail.com is the next thing as well. And what I can tell you is a lot of exciting things are still happening. And again, whereas we grew really quickly to start off with, it's leveled out a little bit, which is fine. But please leave a like, a subscribe on YouTube, Podbean, all the different places like that. It really helps out with everything. And we hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.